This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Hi, my name is Igor Kafetz, and this is The List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to another edition of the List Building Lifestyle with your host, Igor Kafetz. Being online for the last 10 years, I've studied under virtually every coach, mentor, and guru. Every so-called expert that claimed they can teach me how to market, how to sell, how to persuade. I've worked with them. I signed up for their coaching programs. I've got their ebooks. I've got their webinar courses. I even worked with them one-on-one. Trust me when I say that there is virtually no one that you can tell me about that I haven't either read their book or done any sort of work with, anyone who's in the persuasion and marketing space. And after doing so much work with so many experts, I can tell you with full on confidence and conviction that very few people can actually teach how to market and how to sell, although many of them know how to do it. And I really mean it. A lot of the top earners out there, they know how to convert. They know how to convince you to buy something. They know how to get people to march down to the order forms, fill out their credit card details, and hit submit. But very few know how to actually teach it and make their skill set duplicatable, especially when it comes to beginners, which is why I'm extremely excited to be hosting Jeremy Miner, the person who is unmatched in his ability to teach others how to sell. His primary work is with salespeople all across the globe. The last I checked, it was a couple of 100,000 people that he coached how to sell better, how to make more money selling. We're talking about somebody who's in the top 1% of the top 1% of income earners in the sales profession. And in case you're wondering, how is this even relevant to the business opportunity space, this guy actually is not single-handedly responsible, but is partially responsible for coaching many of the salespeople working for companies like Mope and Digital Altitude, which, of course, you've probably heard of and seen how much these companies grown in the last couple of years. So without further ado, I'm excited to be hosting Jeremy Miner from sevenfigureSalesTraining.com. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here.
Igor, it's a pleasure to be on your show, and yeah, it's nice, balmy, early 8 here in the morning, raining like crazy, cats and dogs here in the state of Missouri where I live. But I appreciate the opportunity to be on today with you.
Well, trust me, the pleasure is all mine. I've heard so many great things about you from many of my close friends, and I couldn't miss the opportunity to reach out and see what you got to say about the sales and the marketing space in our industry. Because trust me when I say this, man, so many people out there, they want to make money. And I see the passion, I see their desire, but nobody knows how to sell. Nobody knows how to market. And that's just, really painful to watch for me as a traffic provider, because many times I see people quit. I mean, they get a traffic campaign or something. They don't build any funnels. They don't really position themselves, and they end up just dropping out on this entire industry and giving up on an amazing lifestyle. So once again, thank you so much. And I would like to just dive right into the first question, which is basically, you've got rich experience teaching people how to sell better, how to sell more. And you've probably seen it all when it comes to mistakes and misconceptions. So my first question is, what would you say are some the most common misconceptions when it comes to selling and marketing business opportunities online?
Yeah, I mean, probably for your listeners and your audience, they're entrepreneurs. They range from anywhere from college students, 18 years old, to middle-aged people, 30s, 40s, all the way up into baby boomers, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s sometimes that are just looking for retirement money. So the biggest misconceptions that I always saw, being an income earner in that industry before I started my sales training company, is a lot of people would come in and they literally thought lot. If they could have a couple of email templates, if they could have a sales funnel built for them, if they could literally just push the go button, send out some emails, and people were just going to sign up left and right, and they were going to make all this money and retire rich. And I will tell you, a lot of companies, in a sense, they don't necessarily say that, but that's the impression that their marketing materials give off, that, hey, if you do these couple little things, you're just going to make all this money, yada, yada, yada. But as a top income earner that came from that space, realized I made close to $3 million a year from that space. I was ranked, I think the last year I was in network marketing was 2014. I was ranked number 44th in the entire world, making, I think, about $2.5 million a year on average as a top incomer out of every single company in network marketing, out of 100-some million distributors in the network marketing industry worldwide. Now, how much did I know about marketing? Zero. Zero, zero, zero. I had no sales funnel. I had no email templates. The way I built my business is I literally would call leads, generic leads that I bought from generic lead providers. And I think I had a couple ads on Craigslist, and I think I had a couple ads up on Google. That was it. The reason why I had so much success is because I knew how to influence and persuade. I had the communication skills necessary to be a top income earner in our time. I'm not talking about selling boiler room selling like, the 1980s and 1990s. Those type of manipulative, pushy sales tactics do not work in our time. If you try them, you're going to get crushed, especially in this industry. So I think one of the biggest, I'm going off on a rant here. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is a lot of people come in, they think they can have a couple emails and an autoresponder and a sales funnel and click the go button, and they're just going to get filthy, stinking rich. And until we learn how to persuade and influence, we have to know how to market, persuade, and influence if you want to get big results in this field for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, the mush cookie mentality of just tell me where to click, or tell me where to buy traffic, or tell me which emails I got to use to make sales happen, that almost never works. In fact, I used to have the same mentality myself. I used to steal emails from everybody, starting with, Frank Kern and all the way up to Dan Kennedy sometimes. And I would just copy and paste the emails. It would never work for me because I was stealing the content, not the principle. You know what I mean? Like nobody really thinks of the principle. So my second question, so you're saying that the number one misconception is this mush cookie approach. It's the approach that says, I just need to click a few buttons and it will happen. So we understand now that that's not the case. So what is then the right approach to selling and marketing?
The first approach, as far as marketing, as you're going to have to learn how to write effective emails and not just copy the templates of the company you're with. Because if you just copy the templates of the company you're with and send them out, realize there's probably 10 to 20 to 30 other thousand people in your company using the exact same emails that you're sending out, using the exact same sales funnels. So you look the same, you look the same, you feel the same. Your conversions are going to be horrible. So when you write your emails, you have to know how to write them where they don't sound so hypish and salesy, manipulative and aggressive and pushy, because that is what the consumer has seen for the last 10 to 15 years in internet marketing. And when they see that, it does what? It automatically causes sales resistance. Automatically, they put the guard up. They look at you as just another one of those pyramid schemes or one of those internet scams that's out to take their money, because they've had those experiences before. They see the same type of hypish written emails every single day that show up in their inbox and spam folder. So you have to learn how to write effective copy and focus on their problems that they're having rather than your solution. The number one reason why marketers, and I'll get into salespeople in a second, the number one reason why marketers have low conversions is because they jump in with their solution far too early in that conversation before ever establishing that person's problems, what those person's problems are, what's caused those problems, and more importantly, what those problems are doing to them, how it's affecting them emotionally. With your audience, what are the biggest problems that a network marketing business solves for people? People's problems in our society are really the two biggest ones is they want to make more money and they want to have more time freedom to be able to follow their dreams, do whatever they want, spend more time with their family. And network marketing business model has those solutions that can actually solve those problems. So that's one of the biggest things. Now, as far as persuasion, a lot of people still communicate like it's 1985. I hate to say this, but if you're still using what we would call the old model of selling, okay, where you're focused on you and your agenda of just trying to make the sale rather than focusing on them and what they're looking for and really why they're looking to change their situation, you are automatically going to get sales resistance. They're going to throw out objections and they're going to reject what you're offering. So you have to learn how to communicate in what we call the post-trust era. Trust is dead in 2017, I will tell you that. You have to learn very skilled questions to ask, not just logical-based questions, but emotional-based questions that bring out that individual's emotion where they're tied into what you can possibly help them with. I could go on for hours of training with what those skilled questions are, but you really have to learn how to sell in what we call the new economy today. If you're still selling like salespeople did 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, you're going to really struggle in your business, 100%.
Well, let me tell you, you mentioned quite a few amazing things that we should kind of go over a little, just to make sure they sink, because the one thing I find is that even if I ask a client to read a book or something, and I say, this book is really, really good, and you have to learn the basics that it teaches you about marketing before you can succeed in this industry, like the 80-20 sales and marketing, then, they read the book and then I ask them, okay, so what's your takeaway from the book? And a lot of times what I get is just silence because there is no takeaways. They don't remember. So I just want to go over a couple of things you mentioned. First, the biggest thing you mentioned, the most mind-boggling thing that really, when I realized this about 4 years ago, I actually doubled my business. That is, in the new economy, like you said, today in the new economy, there is no trust. You're so freaking right, man. We are operating in a highly untrustworthy marketplace right now. And the consumer is so skeptical that we have to work extra hard to earn their trust. So that's one thing. Just realizing this makes you wonder, okay, so maybe I should not start with my solution, right? Maybe I should just, tone down my hype a little bit just to make it a little bit more believable. So that's one thing. The second thing you mentioned is that the reason why you need to learn how to write your own emails is because, for the most part, this carbon copy email toolkit you're getting is very hypey, is very salesy, and very manipulative because it always focuses on the solution, on the, make a gazillion dollars and very, very quickly, and so on and so forth. And so, I can tell you from experience, it is very difficult to go from the mindset of hyped up email writing to toning down your claims, to literally forcing yourself to tone down your claims. But I can attest to the fact that it is highly effective. Toning down your hype, it will get you more sales than hyping the crap out of your offers. So now the other thing you mentioned, which I think is really powerful, is the art of asking questions. Okay. Now, what I would like to do, if you don't mind, going deeper into the art of asking the right questions.
Sure. What would you like to know?
Well, what I was thinking about is you said you have to ask the questions that elicit emotion, right? Not just a logical question, but a question that elicits emotion. So what kind of emotions are we going for?
Well, let me give you an example. Let me kind of give you an overview of what I'm talking about. So I'm a behavioral science expert. That's what I went to university for. That's what I have studied my whole life. Granted, I'm not that old yet. I'm getting up there. But my whole life, I have studied behavioral science. And in behavioral science, they have proven that there are three main modes of communication. If you're listening to this, my suggestion, possibly write down what I'm about to give you, because these are very important. They can be life-changing for you if you start to really understand and learn what I'm about to show you here. So, three main forms of communication. I want you to ask yourself, which one of these three are you? Number one. So the number one way to communicate, which is taught by most sales trainers, most network marketing companies, teach this way. According to behavioral scientists, we are the least persuasive when we tell people things or attempt to dominate them or push them into doing something we want them to do, such as presenting, telling your story, which every network marketing company tells you to do. It's been proven to be the least persuasive. Giving a sales pitch, teaching, putting sales pressure on them and assuming the sale. According to behavioral science, it is the least persuasive way to sell. Number 2, we're more persuasive when we interact and discover from each other. That's like a discussion or a debate. But number 3, we're the most persuasive when we allow others to persuade themselves. Let me repeat that. We are the most persuasive, according to behavioral science, when we allow others to persuade themselves. That's called dialogue. So you've got to ask yourself, which way have you been taught? Which way are you still using trying to get it to work? Okay. I will tell you, out of the 200-some thousand salespeople that have gone through some of my sales training courses over the last year, 99.9% are taught the first way. And I know what I was when I first got into selling, back in 2017 years ago. So the training that you keep learning by your companies has actually been proved by behavioral science to be the least persuasive. And this never made any sense to me. When I was going to college, Igor, studying behavioral science, and at the same time I got my first sales job, and they were teaching me traditional selling skills, or what we call old model stuff, it always was a conflict because behavioral science, the experts were telling me, everything that I researched were telling me that way of selling that I was learning from my company went against every single thing I was learning about how to build effective relationships. So traditional selling, telling your story, trying to have posture with your prospects and acting tough, trying to persuade through your presentations and telling your prospects that they should do business with you because your company's the best at this or best at that, and their corporate office is awesome, and the owners are great, and the compensation is the blessed, and it's the ground floor opportunity, and it's $1 billion company, and blah, 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 blah. Which, by the way, every single salesperson says about their companies, just so you know, has been proven the least persuasive way to sell. So the question is, if it's the least persuasive way to sell, then why on earth do you keep selling that way, hoping that somehow, magically, it's just going to work? You keep selling that way because that's the way you were taught, right? So according to behavioral science, we're actually the most persuasive, like I mentioned, when we allow others to persuade themselves. That's dialogue. And what is dialogue? Textbook definition. It's an open form of communication that allows you to receive the answers you need from skilled questions you're asking, to go deeper in that conversation, to find out the core of that prospect, what their problems are, if any, like I said, what's caused those problems and how it's affecting them, and whether or not you can actually help them. So the stress, the anxiety, the frustration you might be experiencing now is completely eliminated from your sales process. And it's a very natural process because your prospect doesn't feel any sales pressure from you. Make sense, Igor?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're saying, at least that's what I'm hearing, the way I'm interpreting this, is we're shifting the spotlight from being the salesperson that's under pressure to close the sale to putting that spotlight on the prospect and just asking questions to find out whether or not this is a good fit.
Yeah, let me give you an example. And it's that's kind of the core, but it's a lot deeper than that. I mean, that's kind of an overview, but you really have to understand, when I say skilled questioning, I don't mean like talking about the weather or what they like and talking about the football game the night before. I mean like really deep emotional skilled questions. So let me give you an example for network marketing. Let's say that you're driving in the car and you're with one of your friends. And, this is a common circumstance that happens a lot with network marketers. And your friend says, gosh, I just cannot stand my job. They're cutting my pay. I'm just tired of driving back and forth. And gosh, I'm not spending enough time with my kids. So let's say that your friend says that to you and you're driving in the car with them. What does a typical network marketer say? Oh my gosh, wow, I've got this great opportunity that I just started yesterday. And you know what? You should get on the call with my upline because this guy is making $100,000 a month. And in fact, there's a webinar tonight that you can listen to. And it's so awesome. Like, we've got the best compensation plan in this industry. There's people making tens of thousands of dollars a month. And I think this would work really, really well for you. And then, right? And then your friend turns around and says, oh gosh, I'm not interested. We don't have the money for that. Right? Now, that person did what? Focused on their solution way too early in the conversation instead of finding out what that person's problem is and expanding on it. So instead, when the friend says that, you might want to say, now, James, what do you mean you're having these issues at work? How long has that actually been going on? Okay, it's been going on for 5 years. And tell me again, I know that you've talked to me a little bit about this. I know that you're a registered nurse. What got you involved in that field in the first place? Oh, well, because of this and because of that, because of this. So do you, I mean, besides what you said, do you like what you're doing for a living? Now, that would be considered what we would call a problem awareness question within our training program, okay? Problem awareness questions focuses on what their problems are, okay? Now, that person is going to say, yes, I do like it, or whatever, or they're going to say, no, I don't really like it, or they're going to hem and haw, well, I'm not quite sure. So instead of focusing on that solution, we're starting to focus a little bit more about what their problems were and having them expand on it. And we want to say, okay, so it's been going on for 5 years, not being there for your kids like you'd mentioned. Has that had an impact on you and your family? Oh my gosh, you have no idea. Well, in what way is it though? And so you're starting to ask questions that are bringing out their emotions and their feelings. And, 5, 6, 7 minutes later, after a few more skilled questionings, you can say, I recently came across something. I'm not quite sure it could even help you yet, but if you're interested, I came across something that might possibly work for you if those are some things you're looking for. And if it's appropriate, I can go through some of the details if you'd like. Oh, well, yeah, what is it? See, and it's a completely different conversation at that point. Got it?
You know what I noticed is, besides, of course, the problem-focused questioning, besides being genuinely interested in this person's life, even if he's not your close friend, what I noticed that your tonality changed too, and it almost goes to this place where it's really non-intrusive.
Sure. Well, it's about tonality too. It's not just the questions you're asking, but it's how you're asking them. It's your verbal plausibility to show them that you're listening. It's how natural you sound. There's a whole lot of that goes in there. It's not just necessarily the questions, but it's really your tonality and how you're actually asking those questions. You're toning down your enthusiasm. I will tell you, one of the number one reasons why salespeople get rejected and objections is because they bought into this massive sales myth that you have to be excited about what you sell to your prospect. And if they see your excitement, that my gosh, somehow they're just going to be excited as well and just buy from you. That is one of the biggest lies, one of the biggest sales myths that these old sales gurus that learned how to sell back in the 1960s and 1970s are still teaching today. Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, in the new economy we live in today, your potential customers actually do quite the opposite to excited salespeople. Okay. Why is that? Because they're used to every single salesperson they've ever met or talked to having a big smile on their face, eagerly waiting to pitch and sell them their product or service. So what has happened? The potential consumers today have built up what? They built up defensive walls to protect themselves from overly enthusiastic salespeople, right? So when they feel your outward enthusiasm from you, they're going to do one of two things. Number one, they're either going to withdraw from you because you've overwhelmed them and they disappear from you. They don't return your phone calls. They don't return your emails or your texts, right? They go into the twilight zone. So that'll be the first thing. That's how some people react to excited salespeople. Or number two, they get defensive, they throw out objections, and they flat out reject what you are offering. So what's the solution to that? You're going to switch your enthusiasm inward and be excited about what you sell, but you're going to keep it to yourself. Okay. You don't have it on the outside. You're going to be calm and relaxed with communicating with your prospects. You're going to have a conversation like a family friend or, a neighbor. And you're going to notice, like you just said, how your prospects will start to open up to you and treat you like an authority figure, an advisor, rather than a dreaded salesperson who's just there trying to stuff his or her solution down their throat. It's a completely different reaction that your prospect will give to you once you learn that skill.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeremy. There's one more question I wanted to ask you. Now, I know you got a sales challenge going on. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so in my company, we have something called the 21-Day Sales Challenge. And the 21-Day Sales Challenge is a basic introduction to the new model of selling, okay? And what it does is it raises awareness on how selling has changed. What caused that? When did that shift occur? How does that affect you as a communicator? Okay. And then in the 21-day sales challenge, how selling has changed, how the consumer's changed. And I also give a few tips and pointers. Now, I let people go through that at no cost. You can give them the website if you want to. I think it's, sevenfiguresalestraining.com. So it's the number 7figuresalestraining.com/sales-challenge. You can give that to your audience if you'd like. And we even have something that we're allowing salespeople to do. They can actually be personally mentored and trained by one of my certified level 1 coaches. And my level 1 coaches will actually train that member through the 21-day sales challenge. I think you typically charge, I think it's like $177 for that, but we're letting people go through that now for the next few weeks for about $7. I think everybody in my company thinks I'm crazy for it, but they can even enroll there. They'll see an offer there right when they opt in where they can get one of my certified trainers for just $7 that will take them through the 21-day sales challenge and teach them those skills if they wish as well.
Well, wait, so you're saying that if I'm somebody who wants to sell more, if I'm somebody who is like familiar with selling, for instance, and I want to increase my sales, you can actually show me how to do that in just $7?
Just $7. Everybody in my company thinks I'm crazy, but we're letting people do that for the next
You are
couple of weeks.
crazy.
Yeah. I am.
You
crazy.
are crazy,
That's
my friend. So,
that is crazy.
guys, you should go to sevenfiguresalestraining.com with that's number 7, sevenfiguresalestraining.com/sales-challenge. And there is a link in the show transcript on our website at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. Just in case you're listening on iTunes on your phone or something like that, go to listbuildinglifestyleshow.com and just click on the transcript button. You'll see that link towards the bottom of the screen. Jeremy, thank you so very much for sharing these insights with us. I'm really excited because, I love doing episodes on selling, especially with somebody who really walks the talk. So truly grateful for you taking the time to sit down and educate
us. Yeah, Igor, it was a pleasure being on your show, and hopefully I didn't bore everybody to death, your audience, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you today.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you. So until next time we chat, have a good one. Thank you for listening to The List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kafetz, and until next time we talk, have a good one.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.